What's up, guys? Welcome to the Make It Happen podcast. This is episode 16. I'm your host, Mr. Make It Happen. I'm joined on the couch by a very special guest today. My friend, business partner, business manager, very first manager in corporate America, and his 40th birthday is tomorrow. Shout out to my guy, AV. We got Jamel. We got Moody behind the board. Still no camera. Y'all blow him up in the comments about that. We got to set up a camera, Moody. What we waiting on?
I ain't got a cut.
He ain't waiting.
I got a cut.
Trying to avoid it.
Yeah.
We got to get one that's like facing upwards to you. See, bad angle.
Oh, trying to get a good angle of him.
Yeah.
The camera?
Oh,
Yeah. So do you not want you don't want a camera?
Nah, he's been avoiding it.
he avoiding it.
It's coming.
Yeah, we got work on
he's
that.
gonna come in. He's gonna be a camera right there. Yeah.
How's everybody feeling?
My 40th birthday gift to you.
There you go.
Thank you.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
We're taking gifts and
I can order right now.
Feeling it different.
put that Amex on the table.
Well, y'all got to let me see what it costs because I don't know what your cameras cost.
About 3,500, no big deal.
Yeah, we just bill it to you.
It's light.
Matter of fact, 40, we do 40.
Less than the bottles cost tomorrow at your birthday party.
Right.
It'll be light.
Right off the
Fell off the truck.
Yeah, right. Too easy.
How you feeling, man? 40
good.
tomorrow. You feel it?
Nah, man. You know,
Not yet. Still feel young. Taking care of yourself.
Still feel good. You know, I work out a lot, run a lot.
That helps.
I actually started going to Orange Theory.
I've been hearing about that. I've been hearing a lot about Orange.
What is Orange Theory?
No, it's like
what is that? I heard a lot about it.
Exercise. So it's like running. So you do treadmill, the row machine, and then you do weights. It's like a circuit.
Okay.
But it was funny because one of my buddies who played professional sports, and then one of my cousins who's a weightlifter, both of them told me that when they went to Orange Theory it was hard, and I thought that was weird because I'm like, it's usually women that I see doing working out in Orange Theory when I walk by the gym in DC or whatever. But I went in, I tried it. It was a little challenging, but the next day and the day after, I was like sore. I was like, damn, like this shit really like
It's a good workout.
A good workout. Right. And now I'm addicted to it. But
how often you go?
Like 3 or 4 times a week. The cardio, get the good cardio, and it's just much better than if you try to do it on your own.
Shout out to Orange Theory if y'all want to cut us a check.
Yeah.
Cut that check.
MakeItHappen.com. Go ahead and email me.
Need that affiliate link.
We'll take it. You can email AV actually because he's my business manager, so he'll broker the deal for me.
Yeah, we can make that happen for sure.
Let's do it.
So what's big lessons from 30?
Ooh.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into that.
Jump right into it.
Man, you know, that's a good question actually, because I think, and me and Matt talk about stuff like this a lot, where I think like you grow out of a lot of stuff, right? Everybody's experiences are different, but what I'll say is like, I think my 30s, I learned the most.
Would you say the early 30s, mid 30s, late 30s?
I'm gonna say late 30s.
And is that
I'm
about?
gonna say like my late 30s.
Is that about like the world or about yourself? When you say you learn.
Another great question, Jamel. This guy's good. I think both. I think
you don't meet a 40-year-old every day. You gotta
I'm saying you gotta ask some good questions now.
Hey, so yeah, I think I learned a lot about the world, maybe my early 30s, but I learned a lot about myself and like understanding why other people that I'm close to are the way that they are.
Okay.
Say the things that they say, react the way that they react in my later 30s.
Okay.
Like today, and as I literally turn 40 in a couple hours, right, can say that there are so many dots I've connected even in this year or the past year that I can't believe I didn't connect
before
12 years ago, 15 years ago with people that I've been close to for a long time.
So have you been to therapy?
Oh, absolutely.
So do you think that played a part in connecting those dots?
Absolutely. Now, I went to therapy years ago, maybe like in 2014, and it was decent, but not like a great fit. And then I started going back to therapy during COVID, like in 2020. I've been in therapy actively since.
Like weekly, once a week?
No, more like bi-weekly. So either I go at least like once or twice a month. And I've had 2 different therapists in the past couple years. Okay. I just recently switched to a male therapist, but prior I was seeing a older woman. But I just like how much she held me accountable. Right. And so when you ask like, did I learn more about myself? I think there are just so many things that I like to say I hold myself accountable. I like to say that, you know, I'm a pretty self-aware person.
Right.
But therapists have a way of asking you questions that you just never would have asked yourself.
Right.
Or like your friend would have never asked you.
Right.
And then you have that aha moment. Right. And I just think that the older I get and the more work that I'm doing, it just resonates more and more with me every day, for sure.
So you think, like, say the therapist helping you make connections within yourself and learn things about yourself, make it easier for you to see those things in other people?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think what I didn't realize earlier in my life is how different my childhood was from other people's, right? So, and Matt, this is something else we talk about, right? Is like I could never understand what Matt's childhood was like in comparison to like what my child was like. And just to put it in perspective, even though my parents are divorced, I literally have never seen my mom and dad argue. I've never seen my dad say anything disrespectful to my mom. I've never heard him say anything negative about my mom, right? I just live in a world where like women are respected, and while they cook, they clean, they do all the work, the men are there, right? And, you know, love them to death, but like they also don't, like I've never seen a man be abusive or verbally or physically abusive.
Right.
And so in situations that I have where I encounter other people and their demeanor arises to a certain point, right? And this could be male or female, this could be friendship or relationship. Sometimes people react in a way that it was a learned behavior, something that they saw growing up that they think is normal. That never made sense to me, right? And it took me to be in my 30s to really realize that, like, because my mom is so calm, that this is how I talk all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I should have understood that when I was 20.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah,
Right?
I realized,
mom.
this crazy as you bring it up, because I realized that early. So like one of my like first serious girlfriends in my early 20s, we had our like first disagreement, right? And I just started yelling. And she like, why are you yelling at me? And I'm like, damn, because my uncle and my aunt used to just yell at each other. So I think when you got a disagreement, we supposed to yell at each other.
Right.
Yeah. And it didn't take for me to realize, like, why? Like you said, it's learned behavior. Like, I don't know why.
It's like subconscious. You don't actively think like I want to yell at this person.
No, it's like,
just, like for example, like a good example is I think my demeanor when something goes wrong is I immediately like what the I have like I stamp it with something like
like the word is ending or something. Okay.
Yeah. My dad would drop something on the floor like, what the fuck?
Just make a big deal out of it.
Make it a big deal. Like I do that, and it has to be because I saw it so much. Because I don't even feel like I catch myself sometimes doing it, and I don't even feel that way. Like,
it's just a natural reaction.
I just immediately respond. Like if something goes wrong, I'm like, God damn it.
Right.
But I don't even care for real. It's not even bothering me that much to act like that.
Right.
So I've been actively trying to like catch myself and like correct that.
Right.
But that's definitely a learned behavior that you just observe for 18 years. Sure. It just gets embedded in your subconscious.
Yeah.
That's very true. That's very true.
And that's just so I had my first therapy session last week. I'm gonna go back. Yeah,
get around.
Trying. He got a clap.
You got to clap in there.
One of our goals was everybody was gonna start therapy by May. So I'm the only one that actually did it.
I went to therapy.
Okay.
So last weekend I went to Waffle House. It was like 6 in the morning.
got the cheese eggs.
My therapist, she worked there.
Yeah. What's her name?
Erica.
What's that cash?
She made a good blueberry waffle.
I got her cash out.
All right, now. Applaud y'all though. That's dope that y'all set goals. I know y'all do that a lot, like set goals with each other. That's dope. But so tell us about therapy.
It was an introductory. It was like an introduction conversation, so it wasn't super in depth. I like him, but I don't know that he's going to be a good fit long term. He's older. He's kind of quirky. I felt like he was like. I wanted him to be more. Not combative may not be the right word. I feel like I was doing too good of a job making him see my point of view.
So here's the thing about therapy though, and I don't know him, so I can't speak on the therapist, but what I'll say is like, you know, there are therapists that like therapists see, right? Yeah. Meaning like you're a therapist for therapists because you're like a super communicator. I'm actually reading this book right now called Super Communicators. But you got to understand, and this is something I'll tell you about business, right? Is like most people who are talented are usually just talented. They're not necessarily able to also be like effective communicators.
Right.
So when you walk into a room, a therapist is used to people who don't communicate.
I feel like I was smoking them in the conversation.
Yeah, like they're used to people who aren't willing to open up and be vulnerable. I experienced a therapist that was probably similar, where I felt like he was shocked that I was telling the truth.
Yeah.
Right? Because most people come into therapy and they're hiding from themselves.
Right.
Guarded,
Right.
yeah.
And if you can be upfront and honest about the trauma, the stuff that you know has impacted you
Right.
throughout your life, the stuff in your family, and you're giving that to them, then it's like some people don't have the next route to go.
Like their whole thing is like like spending months trying to drag it out of you. I'm like, all right, I know I'm like this because these things happen to me. These are the things that I'm carrying around with me. This is my baggage. This is how I feel like it's impacting my life and my decision making and me being impulsive and whatnot. Like, these are the reasons. And he's like, yeah, I can see that. I was like, all right, well, good talk.
It's almost like he got to go take that and process it and come back.
Yeah.
Because he didn't expect you to.
I'm looking forward to the next conversation. I'm gonna give him a few sessions and then switch it up. But yeah, I mean, he was a cool guy. It was fun to talk to him. He told some funny stories that I'm not gonna say on camera. I'll tell you off camera. He's interesting for sure.
I think that's something you've dealt with in the past, though, with a therapist that's not.
Yeah, that's why I stopped going. Yeah. I went to therapy when I first got with my wife. At the time, she was my girlfriend, and early on we argued a lot. I used to talk to you about this when we have our little meetings at work. And I was like, I knew that I was responding the way that I was in a relationship because of what I had experienced growing up.
Right.
So I was like, let me try to see if I can talk to somebody. I went to therapy, and it was good at first, and then there were like back-to-back sessions where I would catch him kind of like giving me the same canned message. Like he would say, I can tell this is what you hit people with all the time.
Right.
And then you lost me. Like, I can't trust that you're being genuine at all now.
Right.
Because you're just regurgitating the same shit each session.
Right.
So I stopped going.
Did y'all ever go to therapy together?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, that sucks, man. I think it's just like managing people. You know, people ask me all the time, like, why do I do some of the things I do? And, you know, Matt says all the time, like, I care too much, right?
You do.
I genuinely care about people.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely care about people, good or bad. You know, I see good in people, even, you know, to a fault, right? And I that's a learned behavior. I get that from my mom, right? And Joe Budden said that in a song once, like I got my mom in me. I love people I shouldn't, or something like that, right? And I remember that bar because, you know, I think my mom is just this warm soul, right? I remember being a kid and just being in the she likes to sew, so we'd be like in Joann's, like the fabric store, and she just talked to a stranger. I'm thinking she know the person, and she's like, "Oh no, I just met them."
Yeah.
Right? But I say all that to say, like, you shouldn't be a teacher, you shouldn't be a coach, like you shouldn't manage people if you don't, unless you genuinely, like, you have to genuinely care about people and their success, right?
I agree.
And like, it's the same goes for therapy. Like, if you don't genuinely care about your patients and like them getting better and them doing the real work, like, you shouldn't be a therapist. You should not be giving canned messages.
I think part of it also is they've been doing it for so long. Like, this guy's been doing it for 30 years. It's like
not as passionate as he once was.
He was telling me how he's about to retire soon. I'm like, so you probably just kind of like checked out a little bit. You just getting your last few checks, and then you're gonna ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Like, all he wanted to talk about to me was like
fun stuff.
Like, he was big on like your sex life. Let's put it that way. Like, he liked to talk about that a lot. I was like, this is weird. Like, I didn't bring this up. Like, this
dude, like in his 60s or something.
Yeah,
retired.
It's a long story that I don't really want to break out right now. But it kind of threw me off a little bit. But, you know, other than that particular part of the conversation, he was solid.
Good.
Pause.
That's funny.
Say
Pause.
Do y'all go Mason Cam up here?
Yeah, I try to. If it's egregious, you gotta throw a little.
You gotta give your pass.
Nowadays, it's back. So, hey, it went away for a while.
It went away for like
Cam and Mace brought
10
it back.
years. Now it's back.
They brought it back.
Yeah, them clips be hilarious in the group chat for sure.
So AV was my we've talked about this a number of times on the podcast now, where I used to be in corporate America for almost 11 years prior to doing this full time. AV actually was my very first manager. I think technically Becca was my first manager, but she was like holding it down until they found or hired somebody or moved somebody into the spot. So I'm gonna give you the fact that she was my first, but Becca might be the first.
I think that's right.
Shout out to Becca.
Shout out to Becca.
Becca was kind of cute during the interview.
I'm make sure she
knows.
sees
I told her.
She knows. If you watching this,
but yeah, and I learned a lot. You know, the time that we worked together, and then we became friends, business partners, and we still cool to this day.
It's funny, as you just said that, you made a comment earlier to say, like, I'm sure we'll have some good stories, right? But that just reminded me of all of the different businesses and the random moments.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
I was like 20 years old, 19, 20 years old when
maybe he hired me. He did my interview and everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's because
I was like, hey, you got to hire this one. Hey, I don't care what he says in there. Come on, AB, you got to keep it solid.
How many people? You got a lot of people
So many.
hired.
Half of Richmond.
I never got anyone hired.
That was like a side hustle
Did you
for
get a
me.
bonus for it?
Yeah, you get like a what is it called?
$1,500.
What was it called? Like the
I don't know, but I was
like a
running
referral
it
bonus.
up.
Referral bonus.
I remember
Yeah,
one
Matt
month
was
I had
killing
almost a $10,000 check, which is a whole lot for my little $30,000 salary.
Right.
Yeah, because I had like in one class I probably had half of the whole.
Oh yeah, you had our
new
whole
hire
class.
That whole new
That
hire
whole
class you were
class?
part of
Yeah.
was all me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
don't know how he did that.
They was coming. I'm not gonna tell. Well,
I didn't know. So, all right, this is actually a really good story. I still remember the first time we ever had a conversation. Mind you, at the time, so I started working for that financial institution when I was pretty young. I was in college, started in a call center, but like quickly within like 2 years, moved into management, like from training to management. So by the time Matt got there, then I was already like a people manager. And Matt walks up to me one day. Like, I think I came in and probably spoke to the new hire class. They used to ask me to just come in and you know, give them a little motivational. Give a little motivational speech, a little bit of inspiration before they start their job, right? And one day Matt walks up to me literally in the middle of like this call center floor, and he's just like, hey man, you seem like you like got this figured out. Can you help me get promoted?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that because he's to this day the only person who's ever said anything or asked me anything like that and been that straightforward about what he wanted, right? And so from there, you know, I would love to hear Matt's perspective here, but like I remember from that moment really seeing like, okay, this dude is determined. He told me like he had like 3 jobs prior to that or something, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, well, cool. Let's get you some money and you know learn some things in the moment. Like I think people take corporate jobs or 9-to-5s for granted, right? Like you should take that experience and learn, right? If you work for a Fortune 100 company,
Right.
there is so much information that's going through your computer or across your desk every single day, and if you're not using that outside of those walls, then like, you know, you're doing yourself a disservice. And so what I think and would like to think that I was doing with Matt was then like really holding him accountable, right? And I remember one day Matt telling me like, I'm better than everybody on the team. Why are you still so hard on me? Like you're way too hard on me, right? And I'm like, because it's not about the people sitting next to you, right? Like when you get up here, when you succeed, everybody is good. Like the people who are sitting next to you at work, like next to your desk, aren't who you're competing with. You're competing with yourself because you want to continue to grow as a person, because you never know what room you may end up in, and you may need to be prepared to have a conversation that your neighbor sitting next to you at work is never going to have with you. And so like, you know, there are a few people that I worked with in my life that I still communicate with that are successful, and we have great conversations. But Matt's probably the person that I'm closest to from corporate America. But yeah, like we went on to do multiple business ventures together.
Right.
So that's not something that you can say you usually find in a person that you meet,
For sure.
at a job.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best lessons I probably learned from you. And I just learned it over time, but you were the first person to kind of like bring that to light to me, because when you're young and you're not from that culture or environment, like it's only about, like if you're playing basketball at the playground, like I'm competing against the people. I'm not thinking about who's playing at, Kent State. Like I'm worried about who's playing right now.
Right.
But like my biggest thing since then, as I've grown up, is like I'm not comparing myself to people that I don't want to be like. And that's the best. That's basically what you're saying. Is like you shouldn't compare yourself to the person that's sitting next to you at your desk, because if you're smoking them every month in sales, like why would you even care? Like you need to be worried about comparing yourself to people that you want to aspire to be like, or be better than one day even.
For sure.
Right.
So what you don't know, or maybe I probably told you this before, I saw you pull up. We got to work at the same time that day when you did this speech.
Oh,
and we parked not too far from each other. AV at the time, I forget what year this was, probably 2011.
Yeah.
Driving a Lexus LS 460, which is basically a $100,000 car. He had on the fresh Pradas. He was young. I'm like, this guy knows what's going on. Like everybody else I see, since I started this job, I'm like, these are a bunch of stiffs. Like, I don't know why I don't even belong here. Like, I'm lucky to have gotten this job. No college degree, like my best work experience prior to that was being a supervisor at BJ's Wholesale Club. Like working at a Fortune 100 company was never something I thought was going to be in the cards for me. But somebody at my current job had got fired from Capital One and noticed how well I was selling memberships at BJ's and was like, you should apply for this job. They got a job fair this weekend. I'm like, they're not going to hire me. Went to the job fair. Becca was my person that interviewed me. Got the job. I had no idea that I would actually get the job. I just went just because. And got the job, was in training class. AV came in. We actually had pulled up at the same time. You got probably the best car in the parking lot at the time. I'm like, all right, as soon as I get a chance, I'm gonna pull up on him and be like, hey, look, I don't know how I got in this house, in this place, but I'm trying to figure it out. And this $30,000 a year is cool. It's better than what I was getting, but we got to figure this out. I need to do a little better. And that was my full intention. Like I kind of like scouted it out the whole way.
That's hilarious.
Because we we pulled up around the same time. You walked in, I walked in after you, not too long after that, and didn't see you again until later when you came in to do the little speech. I was like, that's my guy.
Yeah, that's funny. No, I don't think I knew that. I assumed that you just knew what kind of car I had later, like after.
No, I seen it that day.
Very early on.
That day.
Yeah, so while I tell you, a lot of positive things about my mom and my childhood, the flip side of that is like I grew up in Newport News, Virginia, and I grew up in what society would deem as poverty, right? And so for me, as soon as I started making money, it was very important for me to buy the things that like I thought were like status symbols, right?
I
so
still
I bought
haven't broken out of that.
Yeah. So like I bought a house. I bought my first house when I was 23, right? And then I think I was like 27 or something when I got that Lexus. But even prior to that, I had multiple cars already. I had even bought my mom a car while I was young. But I always had like a side hustle, some type of business. We could, obviously now real estate is like something I really focus in, but how that even got started is partly just because like my family trusted me with assets, like properties that were left in the family because of how I was as a child, right?
Yeah.
Because they would see me constantly like having some type of business, and from being in elementary school selling candy at school, like my aunt literally told me, like when I was like 8 or something, that I asked her for some money to buy some candy, and then I bought her $20 back home, right?
Yeah.
And like I don't remember that, but the fact that I did that is something that I feel like is consistent across like entrepreneurs now. Like when I hear people tell stories, like they always
We all got a similar story.
Yeah, like it's like they all were doing something like that when they were younger. But obviously in the corporate space, for me, it was something that ended up just being easy.
Yeah.
So like, to be able to take that money and go invest it other places was like, yeah, like I could do this with my eyes closed. I love to manage people. I love to coach people. I love to develop people, and they're gonna pay me for that and pay for my health care. Cool, but like, you know, I don't think people pay enough attention to the like. But what do you actually want to do? What do you really care about? Like, go and find out. I feel like most people never really know what they're good at or know what they're passionate about. That's something else that I learned later in life was like, my superpower is people, right? Like I'm good with people.
Right.
And, you know, you don't realize like you can cook and you know that makes you money because everybody has to eat every single day. Right. But you don't realize is somebody who likes to communicate with people that, oh, I can make a living by just talking to people, right? People will pay me for that. And, you know, another lesson that you learn in your 30s is like, oh, yeah, you could actually make a living by talking to people because most people don't like to talk to people or aren't good at it, right?
Right. So, I'm one of them. That's why I call it, like, as soon as this shit started popping up, I called AV. I was like, listen, I need you to be a part of this because there's certain conversations that I'm not best equipped to have. And I don't want to, for me to do well at something, I got to want to do it. Number one. That's like the number one thing for me.
Right.
For me to do well, I got to want to do that thing, or I got to want something that thing could get me to. Like I'll do something that I don't want to do if it's going to get me
in the bigger
where
picture.
I want to go.
The bigger picture, right?
But for me to do something that I don't want to do and there's no upside for me, you're losing me. Like I'm not good at that.
2 thumbs down.
So it's like that's what I called AV. I was like, I need, like, you're the person I need to have, you know, help have some of these conversations.
Yeah,
manage the people in the relationship.
Yeah,
he literally called me and was just like, hey, so I'm getting big on YouTube. Brands are starting to reach out to me and stuff. He was just like, do you think you can manage me with this business too?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, cool. Sure. Let's do it, you know? But another great story, right, is, you know, that was just like fun. It was like a hobby. I'm not someone, again, I grew up in Newport News, Virginia. There's not a fine dining restaurant in Newport News, Virginia. Nobody, like Moody said earlier, we going to Waffle House.
Yeah.
after the bar, after the club. That's a true story, right? So, you know, I don't think I really thought that working with chefs would be something that was important, was big, was fun, like none of those things.
Right.
Obviously, I like, you know, as a consultant, I like to work with people, period. But, you know, when Matt asked me to do that, it was just kind of like a hobby at first, right? It was just something I was doing on the side. But now I'm very appreciative of, you know, the opportunity to learn something new that I would have never even attempted to learn.
And it's a new industry. Like it's the future too. Like I've been talking about it for a while. Like I think that it's a new industry and you can kind of like plant your flag in the sand and make your mark on it. Like every other big industry that's happened. Like
it's only like 5 years old.
Yeah, there's like the days of there being the news station and the newspaper and the radio and TV commercials on cable television. That shit is on its way to extinction. That's gonna die off very soon.
Yeah.
All of the podcasts, the content, the influencer space, YouTube, Instagram, like that's the future. That's the new radio. That's the new newspaper. That's the new.
It's gonna be like a face associated with the new companies. Like if you look at Mr. Beast or Logan, like Prime, it's gonna be a person associated with it more so than just like a big business that been here for 100 years.
Exactly. So that's what I've been trying to like say to people that kind of like, you never were somebody that was into social media or into like that kind of thing. So like that, trying to like get that point. You bought into it pretty quickly, but I had that conversation with a bunch of people that just didn't get it.
Right.
Didn't even try to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, that goes back to like people speak so definitively, right, about things that they know absolutely nothing about.
Right.
If you bring an idea to me and I don't even ask you a question, and I just say like, no, that's not gonna work, I'm not attempting to understand what you're talking about, right? And the thought of that is insane. And you know, if you have children, kids ask questions, kids.
About everything.
About everything, right? We never should stop that as adults, right? Because you don't know if you come to me and you're passionate about something, even if what you're saying isn't 100% accurate, there is something there, right? Because you have energy in you about it. And this is what sucks about, like, again, goes back to like parents and teachers and coaches and stuff, is like they're dream killers. Like your friends and your family will shoot down your dream, and you may not ever do it. True story. I met this kid one day. I was in T-Mobile probably like 3 years ago. I wish I remember his name because I wonder where he is today. But met this kid in T-Mobile, and he noticed I was listening to a audio book on my phone. I can't remember what it was, but it was like an investing book. And at first I thought he was just like trying to make small talk with me and act like he knew something. But then he actually quoted something from the book. Right. And I said, oh, this kid really knows what he's talking about. And we start chatting, and he tells me that he played soccer until he was about 13, and that his father was a professional soccer player in somewhere in South America. And he said when his dad came home, like after his dad retired, he came to his middle school soccer game, and we saw his son play soccer. Then he said to his son, now if our family depends on you to feed us, then we won't eat based on his performance in soccer.
Jesus Christ.
So the kid, right? The kid's looking at his dad as a professional
as
soccer
a hero,
player,
right?
As his hero that he looked up to,
Yeah.
and now he's like, I don't even want to play soccer anymore.
I gotta find something else to do.
So the kid
reading
literally,
investing books.
The kid literally stopped. He said he didn't even play soccer again after that until he went to college. Gets to college, and like his dorm friends, like play play soccer. So they're like outside, like, hey, come with us, come and play. He gets on the court, he's still good, right? Yeah. I mean, gets on the field, he's still good. Tries out, makes the soccer team, right? And now he goes on and he's playing soccer in college when I meet him, right? And in that moment, I'm like, man, like, you lost 5 years of soccer.
Of development.
Imagine how much better you could have been.
Because one thing your dad said to you, right? Yeah. And it's just so sad that we live in a world where the people that are closest to us shoot down the things that we
It's their own fears they're projecting. Yeah. There's a quote that people that think they know everything never learn anything. Right. Yeah, and that's the truest shit ever. Like when you're talking to somebody and they know everything, like no matter what topic you bring up, they know everything. Mm-hmm. Like you're never going to learn anything
at all
if you think that you know everything.
Right.
That's a big issue. And then like going back to the dream killers, like that, I dealt with that so often. Like there was so many times during the climb up where I'm telling people like, this is what I'm going to try. This is what I'm going to do. Right. I told everybody that would listen to me that this is what I'm going to do. And 99% of the people was like, yeah, okay, well, that's not going to work. What if they cancel Instagram, or what if this goes away? What if they ban YouTube tomorrow or whatever? Like there was always a, but what if? Right. Meanwhile, you're doing nothing.
It's rough. See, I think about that too as well. Like we have those defining moments. Like he said something negative to his son, and it just like killed his dream. Then you have those moments where somebody say, "I see something in you," and they propel their dreams at the same time. But it's like kind of hard. Most people are not a visionary. Most people can't see something out of nothing. So if you talk to like the average person about something, it's like they don't have nothing to base it off. And people who are visionaries or entrepreneurs, you can see into the future a little bit, or you have faith enough to peep to see what this could potentially be.
Right. Well, like see potential in something. Like an issue that happens is a lot of people with big dreams, they come from small places, or they come from like not necessarily small cities, but like they come from like poverty, or they come from a broken home, or they come from some sort of like not so great atmosphere, right? Those are the people that usually have the most lofty dreams. The people in their immediate circle don't got shit going on.
No, nothing.
So that they're not going to be able to see
at all
your potential. They're not going to know what's going on in the world. So those are going to be the people that's going to shit on you and like, say, oh, you're not good enough to do that. Like you want to be a comedian, you're not even funny. You want to be like they're going to shit on your dreams.
For sure.
It's important if you see somebody that got something special about them to tell them.
Yeah. Oh, it's so important. It's like the most important thing. Not only the
doubt of others, but self-doubt is huge. Like even people with the lofty dreams, like myself, self-doubt is a real thing. You think about it all the time. It's like, oh, one bad thing could happen. Like I could post a video tomorrow and not get that many views. I'm like, damn, I'm failing. Like this shit's about to fall off a cliff. Everything's going to shit.
It's worse now than ever with social media.
Yeah.
Because everybody got an opinion.
Oh my gosh, everybody has an opinion.
Most of the people that got an opinion not doing nothing.
And the saddest part, man, is even like with like the whole, Drake versus all these other rappers things. I try to avoid some of this stuff because I hate that we constantly are comparing everybody who's great, right?
Yeah.
And it sucks, man. It just sucks that like people really wake up, go online, and all of a sudden now you are a hip hop
aficionado,
guru, right? Yeah. And now you can decide who is winning because of a bar that is, and it's just like guys, like you have to stop. And everybody has such a strong opinion about something versus just saying like, hey, I prefer Kendrick Lamar.
That
right?
negativity fuels the engine too, though. Yeah. So like the algorithm, like all of those negative comments boost the engagement, boost the algorithm. More people see it. You might gain fans from that.
Yes. I feel like everything is still as barbaric as like the gladiators. I feel like that's human civilization.
We're human.
Two people in the middle going at it, and everybody cheering or booing or cheering.
Yeah, that's it. And
that's
you can't fight a lick. You just you at the boxing match.
Right.
Like, I got Floyd. Like
that's just what it is. I feel like
now it's on your phone and stuff.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
I was just before y'all got here, I was listening to like Caleb Plant, like the boxer.
Right.
Everybody said I kind of look like him, or he looked like me, but. He was on stage and the guy was interviewing him. He said everybody was booing him. I forget who he was fighting at the fight. Everybody was booing him, and the announcer, or whoever was interviewing him, was like, "How do you feel about everybody booing you?" He was like, "It's easy to sit out there and yell and scream and boo. It's hard to stand right here and go in the ring and fight for a living."
Right.
Like you're doing nothing. You're sitting on the sidelines with no dreams or aspirations, or you got dreams and aspirations, but you're too much of a coward to act on it and do anything about it. You just go sit on the couch and waste your life away.
For sure.
But you could be on Instagram being like, "Oh, I hate this. You're a loser. Why are you wearing that?" Or whatever.
Why you wearing that?
Not be hating that because people be like the LeBron
what are
haters.
You doing?
It's like you ain't stick to nothing for 30 days.
On their profile,
you talking to somebody that been doing something for 20 years.
Right.
Like.
Again, and it just goes back to like, listen, and it's like people are trying to convince you to believe or think what they think. Like we live in a group think world, right? And it's like you don't have to like LeBron James. You don't know LeBron James, but statistically, LeBron James is the best basketball player.
I mean, objectively, you can just look at the game and tell that he's pretty good.
Right.
It's like
no, for sure.
It's like why do we need to talk about it? One of the craziest things, one of the things that bothers me most is when I hear somebody say, "I'm not a Beyonce fan."
Yeah,
I've never asked anybody if they're but I've heard that so many times.
Right.
It's like, guys, listen. The numbers don't lie. Like the people who are at the top of the charts at the top of the charts for a reason. Just let it be.
You got to be so different,
right?
Yeah.
And for people who have green text messages, right? It's the same thing. Like you want to convince us so much that their phone is better. I've never used a Samsung. I can never act like I know if it's a good phone.
They have no development with the phone. They act like they created it.
Right. It's like it just is the craziest conversation we have with people.
It's a team aspect of it. Like humans grew up in tribes.
Yeah, it's always
we're a part. We're big on like wanting to be a part of a team. So your team Samsung, your team LeBron, your team anti-LeBron. Like there's coalitions. Like everybody wants to be a part of a group at some point in some facet.
And people will literally tell you that they don't like an iPhone or they don't like LeBron because everybody likes it. Right? It's like
I'm trying to be. I'm a contrarian. I want to be different.
I'm admitting I'm a hater.
I hate that shit.
Some people say that it's like people in conspiracy theories. Like you got people who always
like people gotta have an identity.
Yeah.
Like even people that don't aspire to be anything in life, they have some sort of identity, whether it's online, whether they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, like whatever it is, they have some sort of identity somewhere in life. As a human, you gotta have
because you don't live your life free of influence. Right. Something is influencing you. If you think it's not, like something is influencing
every single thing about you has been influenced
for
at some point.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I want to jump back to something that you were talking about earlier. I heard you say this before, and then I listened to the episode where JR and Dan were on, and y'all kind of alluded to it again, was like, you know, the dream killers. And I didn't know this about you when we first started working together in the food space. But recently, I've heard you say a couple times that there were moments where you didn't cook, or that you didn't start cooking until later, because men would tell you that, like,
it wasn't
cook.
cool.
Like, it's not cool to cook. Like, that's for women to do.
Yeah.
And I would have never thought that. And then y'all even said something where it's like, even though most men are actually chefs, like at restaurants. But again, like, you know, we don't see that. Like, growing up, we don't see who the chef is at a restaurant.
Right.
We don't know who.
We don't go to restaurants.
Right. We don't really go to restaurants.
You
right?
just see who's cooking at your house or your friend's house, and it's always a woman
that's cooking.
And like, no man, like, we was never at the playground hanging out with your boys and like, I want to be a chef. Like, you never heard that.
No.
Right. How old were you when you realized, like when you felt that? Like, you felt like, I want to cook, but I don't feel like I'm supposed to based on what I hear.
It was late, maybe like 18, 19, like probably after that, really. Like, so when I first moved out, I got my first apartment really early. I had a roommate. We used to cook, or I used to cook, and it would be like meal prep because we needed to like not eat out to save money type shit. And that started it. I was like, all right, well, this is good. People would try it. Like, oh, they liked it. And then your ego gets kind of involved. Like, oh, maybe I'm good at this thing. You kind of like double down on it, get more interested in it. Then we would have company come over before we would go out to the club. Girls would come over and we would drink before we would go out. They would try the food. It'd be in the fridge, or I just cooked something recently. And they'd be like, oh, this is good. Like, when I come over next week, can you make this again? It's like, oh, damn, now the girls like it. Like, now you really get involved in it. And then I got more interested in it. Then I moved from Richmond to DC for the job, and I was isolated. I didn't know anybody there. It was just me and my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now. We lived together. I didn't leave the house for like 3 years. I'm just in the house and I'm working. I rarely went out unless somebody came up, and all I did was cook every single day. I got obsessed with it. And I just, that was it. So it took me to read Anthony Bourdain's book for me to like appreciate what a chef really is. Like, I didn't really know. Like, I would see Bobby Flay, and no offense to Bobby Flay, you're probably not listening, but if you are, you look a little corny on the internet, like or on TV. Like, I don't want to be Bobby Flay. But Anthony Bourdain described it in a way that was like, they're like rock stars. Like, I can relate to that. I don't want to get into specifics, but certain things that he was saying, I was like, I could get into that. And that really changed my life in the way that I viewed being a chef. Prior to that, it was like, it's like a girl thing. Like, when you're young, it's like girls supposed to do the cooking. I know that's like a sexist view of the world, but that was the reality, right. The way we grew up.
Right.
And like, you didn't want to, like, when you're in your early 20s, you still have a lot of that younger influence. Like, the way you viewed the world when you was like 14 still kind of exists when you're 18, 19. Right. You're starting to break out of it, but you haven't fully understood things the way that you probably should. Right. Or the way that you will as you get a little older. Your brain develops a little bit more. And that just was it. Like, I didn't really like want to get into it until I kind of like started to appreciate what it could be for me.
So was there a moment where like it clicked and you said, you know what, like, forget what I've heard or felt before, like, this makes sense? Yeah. Was it the Anthony Bourdain book, or was it
the book? For sure. Like, because I had fell in love with cooking prior to me telling people that that's what I wanted to do, or me taking it seriously. Like, I started, like, for me to get obsessed with it, I was already in love with it. That's why I started to learn about it. Like, I was like, when I moved from Richmond to DC, I was like, I need a hobby. And as corny as it sounds, one of the hobbies was Madden, the video game. And I was like top 100 in the country that year in Madden. And I've always been pretty good, never been that good ever in my life. But I literally had nothing else to do. I would only do that. And then I was like, what else can I, like, this is not who I'm not a fucking video game guy. I'm not trying to come home every day from work and just play video games. That's not me. Right. Then I was like, all right, well, what else do you like? What is your, like we talked about it earlier, people don't know their thing. They don't know what they're passionate about. Like, what is your thing? I was like, I like to cook. and then I just went all in on it and just never looked back.
Yeah, man, that it's funny to be sitting next to somebody, and y'all may know that story, but I didn't know all of that.
Yeah.
And I tell we talk about this all the time. Where I'm like, I feel like your audience doesn't know you enough. Like they don't.
No,
know.
they don't.
Yeah, like they
That's
don't
part of
know
why we do this.
The personal parts of you.
Yeah.
But because I know when I first heard the whole thought that like women cook or women are supposed to be the ones who cook, I never would have even thought that. But as soon as you said it, it made so much sense, right?
Yeah.
Another dot that was connected, right? It's like just understanding like what holds people back sometimes.
Right.
But glad you found it, figured it out, and made some things happen. I think another story, right? Matt and I, in addition to working in corporate America, also had a hair business. So we sold like weave. Like I had a buddy who my homeboy, shout out to Cat, was living in China, and he sent me some hair. He just sent me some weaves. Like, you know any girls who do hair? I'm like, yeah, a whole bunch of them, right? Sure. But I literally took this package of hair, just set it on my dresser, and kind of forgot about it. And then I was in LA. My homegirl Ash Money, she was a wardrobe stylist at the time. She was working with Sierra, and she's like on the phone with the hairstylist, and they're talking about like her hair getting done. She was getting weave or wig or something, and it was like $2,000 or something, right? And as soon as she hung up the phone, I said, "What kind of hair is it?"
Right.
And she started telling me like it's this virgin hair, like these weaves are expensive. Girls pay $500,000 to get their hair done.
Yep.
And I said, I literally have a package full of hair sitting on my dresser, and it's like virgin Brazilian hair, right? And she told me when I got home to ship her some, right? Ship her some samples. Right. And I did, and the rest was history. Like we had, oh my gosh, I can't even think about the number of like clients we had, whether celebrities, people like working on the Scandal set when Scandal was popping. Right. And then Matt had a client or a friend in Richmond who owned a salon, and so he was like, "Hey, you making money? Let's do it."
I remember the day that it started. You were my manager, and we had the big little cubicles that was like high up, so y'all could be like not as visible as everybody. So I was over there fucking with you. You looked up. You was like, "You think you can sell hair?" I could sell anything. And then you gave me some stuff to see if I could sell it, and then we just was off to the races after that.
That's funny. I didn't even know that.
I remember that. You must have been thinking about it because it wasn't even what we were talking about. You was like, "You think you could sell hair?" I was like, we was in sales, so it was an appropriate conversation, I guess.
Yeah, because when I started selling hair, I think my mindset was just I would have black customers. Like it would just be like black women. But then what I realized was, no, like most of my clients, the people's hair that they did were like very successful women who had long hair. They just wanted longer, fuller hair, right? So we were selling a quality, like premium quality.
We made a lot of money selling hair.
Oh, made tons of money.
I needed it at the time.
Oh, it was fantastic money. But even like clip-ins and Becca, when Becca got married, she had clip-ins in her.
Oh no, they all
right. So like it became a thing, but it was that's funny.
It was also a great way to meet women. Like in my single days, I had got my little Infinity with the rims on it. I was selling hair out the trunk, fake Louis bag in the backseat. Man,
yeah. Oh, there were a couple times like I would go to meet women and they would be expecting something else, like. And then they see like, oh, you like a dude, like for real.
Yeah. Well, imagine being white.
All right.
Pulling up selling hair. You're the guy that's selling hair.
People would hit me too, like, you got a white dude selling hair with you too? I'm like, hey man, listen, whatever works.
Business is business.
Then we did some tax stuff for a little while. I think Matt got a couple of people jammed up.
No audits. No audits.
Clean roster.
I got out before shit hit the fan.
So that was something we like, nah, we gotta get up out of that. But I'll never forget when Matt told me one day that, like, and I don't know if this is too deep. We can
go for it.
if we needed to. But when I was asking Matt, like, if he was sure this is what he wanted to do, right? I'm like the one who's always going to ask you, like, how do you know? Like, how do you know this is the thing that you should be doing, right? And Matt told me, like, if I was told right now I could never cook again, he said I wouldn't want to be here.
Yeah.
And I said, that's all I needed.
Done deal.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
that's a fact.
And then I Googled Gordon Ramsay's net worth, and I said, yeah, let's do it.
It's up.
Like this, it's one of the only things that I genuinely enjoy. No strings attached. Like I enjoy certain things, but there's always a caveat to it. Like I enjoy going to the club only if it's the right people, the right environment, the right music, the right drinks.
Right.
I enjoy going to dinner only if the food is good. Like the only thing that I enjoy with no caveats, no strings attached, is cooking. That's the only activity that I enjoy. And there doesn't have to be anything else going on, no other. It could be just me by myself in the kitchen. I'm having a good time.
Right.
And I'm not the person that I don't have a good time that like I'm not a excited guy. Like I'm not like this is the best day of my life. That's just not who I am. I wish I was a little bit more like that, but I'm not. And the only time I feel really good is when I'm cooking.
Are there any studies on that? Do we know like people who like don't show a lot of excitement? Anybody
It's not that I'm not showing it. I just don't feel it.
Even that, like,
Never.
Even feeling.
Yeah, I think it's.
Do we know? Like, I'm gonna have to do some
That's
research.
why I'm in therapy.
It's
trying to figure it
the
out.
happiness hypothesis. Just everybody has a different level of happiness just naturally from birth. Some people are just never going to be as happy as others.
That's depressing to see because it'll be times like Rhino's a good example. Like that's one of my closest friends I've known my whole life. Y'all love him on the show. Shout out to Rhino.
Shout out to Rhino.
But he's somebody that can always point to that I, for the most part, other than a handful of times, have I ever seen him where he's not in a good mood. And if anybody's been around me for longer than a day or two, they've seen me not in a good mood.
Right.
So it's like, I look at that like, damn, like I really kind of wish I had a little bit more of that in me. Like you're another problem. I've never seen you I've seen you in a bad mood maybe once or twice ever. I've known you for 12 years, or 13 years. It just, there's people like that.
It's just natural for them. It's not like they're trying.
Yeah, and some days I just wake up in a bad mood.
Right.
There's no reason for it, and I'm just depressed, and I'm sad, or I'm upset, or whatever. But there's people around me that just never experience, at least my perception is they don't experience that.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that because if I'm not smiling, people who are close to me are like,
what's wrong?
Like, what's wrong?
Is everything all right?
That's how I'm about talking.
I'll just be
Is
like,
it too warm in here?
I could literally just be like in a deep thought. It's too warm in here. I could be just in deep thought and like the perception is something like I'm upset or something. So no, I do get that. But I tell you all the time, like, I think you think that you're less likable or that you're less happy than you actually are. Because while you don't like visibly always show a ton of excitement, like you're still passionate about things.
Right.
And sometimes you don't have to smile. It's more about like what you're saying and doing that shows somebody that you like care about this thing or that you're excited about it, right?
Right.
I'm like you in the sense of like I'm addicted to the process, right? The trophy, even yes, I love money, but that's not like why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Like for me, I enjoy the process of what I'm doing and seeing whether it's people, like I believe in, you know, I got a saying, like I believe in leaving things better than I found them, right? And whether that's with people, whether that's with real estate, whatever, a business, for me, I like to like see the thing get like progressively better, improve, to look better, whatever. And there are times where people are like, I've been asked, like, Adam, do you ever just like stop and enjoy something when you succeed? Or, you know, do you, one time my realtor called me and I listed a house. Let's say it was you know a $900,000. We listed it for $900, $900,000, but then got a few offers. Ended up selling for $960. And when he told me that, then he was like, "I thought you were gonna be like a little more
happy
excited,
about it."
right?"
Yeah.
And it was just like, Oh no, I am excited. Like I'm like, the house didn't even sit on the market for 24 hours, and now it's sold for more than $60,000 over what I wanted for. Yes, I'm happy, but like, as soon as you tell me that, all I'm thinking about is how I'm gonna spend that, right? And so, a lot of people think differently than that, and I don't know if one way is right or wrong, but that's why I asked. Like, I wonder if there is any studies about that, because I do think some people are just naturally, constantly thinking about like what I can do next. Right?
I think that's a gift and a curse for me, because like I deal with it all the time. Like I'm at home, I'm spending time with my family, my kid, my wife, and a lot of times I can't even be present because I'm like, I'm on my phone, I'm on my computer. It's like I'm trying to do all of this stuff.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I could unplug and sit on the couch and watch 14 episodes of whatever the hell is on Netflix right now. But the reason why we got this couch and this house and all of the things and the luxuries that we are able to do is because I'm driving myself crazy every day trying to make life comfortable. But when do you ever get to sit down and enjoy the comfort if you constantly chasing the next thing?
Right.
That's something I've been battling with mentally. It's like I'm exhausted, but I can't imagine not continuing at the pace that I'm on or increasing the pace. Like, we're talking about increasing the pace.
Right.
I can't imagine kicking my feet up and just like,
I mean, it's something that you always wanted before you even knew how you wanted it.
Yeah, I always knew somehow. I was like, even all the businesses we did, I wouldn't say any of them failed. We did pretty well with everything we did. I failed at a bunch of shit before I met you. Like I've been desperately clawing to find a way to be able to be where I'm at today. And now that I actually have my foot in the door or my toe through the crack of the door, or the door is unlocked, I'm trying to break in that bitch, whatever it is, I'm close, or I'm kind of in the mix a little bit right now, and I can't stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's so much to what you're saying right now. But I think the biggest thing for me to know you and work with you is that, like, I've always said you're one of the most determined, if not the most determined person that I know. But when it comes to like your future, now that you have a platform, now that you have a following, like there are a lot of things that you can automate. There are a lot of things that you can like, not necessarily hire people to do because you have a team, but like there are a lot of things that can be altered even just slightly to allow you a few extra hours, but it's about. But
I don't allow myself.
Right. And I was gonna say, but it's and if that's the thing,
like I'm just like, all right, so where are we at?
Then it's like what needs to be true to even get that? And I don't know if that's what you want or if you don't want that, but I think what I'm hearing you say is you feel like you need.
I feel like they need it.
Like your family.
Yeah, I need to do a better job for them.
Yeah, and it may not be as important today as much as it is when, like, he's 5, right?
That's what I keep saying, sports, too. Right? Yeah, because, like, right now he doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
But I'm trying to build something that when you are of age, like...
Which is more important, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember my mom working multiple jobs. I remember my mom working at night. But then I remember my mom went back to school. She became a teacher. My mom actually worked at Denby, the high school I went to.
Right.
But I remember my mom always being at my football practices, my basketball practices later in life, right? So I think, while when we were younger, it was more of a hustle. But I think to this day, one thing that, and I know you always say, like you said it earlier, you got a good mom. I do think like my mom is like my biggest cheerleader, right? When I started any business that I ever started, I thought my mom would probably tell me I was crazy. I'm taking money, to go and start this business. And she's probably looking at me like, you could be spending it on something or saving, save your money.
Right.
And that's just never been me. Like I literally have always taken all of the money I've ever had and gone and invested it in something else, which was scary during COVID. But other than that, it always has worked out. And what I can say is like I remember my mom being there and being the person who said like, you know, you seem to always figure it out. So
Yeah.
I guess you're gonna figure it out. So I think like for you, yeah, man, I'm not gonna tell you what you should or should not do today, but I'm sure like when your son is older and can really remember like the things that are gonna be more important are the things that you are able to provide and teach him and show him once
That's
he's
the
of
way I
age.
see it.
Yeah.
Like at the very least, if I'm not the best father in the world by whatever textbook definition, I'm doing the best that I can in the best way that I know how to do it, doing the things that I think are most important. Like I'm not gonna not be there. I'm gonna always be there. But like I know some guys that's like, I just wanna make 50 grand a year and just hang out on the beach every day with my family. And I admire that. Like, I think that that's admirable. I couldn't live like that.
See, I need
It's
to.
all what you have inside of you
Yeah.
as a man too, as well what you want out of the world. Because like that's a tough balance to find for when you are ambitious and you do have a family. You know what I'm saying? Find that balance. But like you said, as far as giving you your best effort, that's more than anybody ever gave us.
And I think also more than anything, like I could sit there and show you how to count to 10 and like your AB, like, but if you see your father out there like getting shit done,
Right.
we talk about as a leader, you lead by example. There's no better example than running your life in a fashion that's like you're being successful, you're taking care of your health, you're going to the gym, you're handling business, you're paying your bills, you're doing all the right things. Like that, just alone from witnessing that, I never saw that shit.
Right.
I
Yeah.
saw everybody doing the absolute opposite of that. And then I still figured this out.
Right.
It's like, imagine if you have a great role model, like at the very least, that's going to be,
And it's respectable.
yeah, it's
as
going to
well.
be impressionable on him.
Yeah, they say like 80% of people who grow up in poverty stay there.
Yeah.
But the people who make it out, right? And you gotta think like you either end up being like just like your parents or one of your parents, or like complete opposite.
For sure.
right?
There's no in between.
And so a lot of the people who end up like being successful took those lessons and just
And this is what I don't want to do.
right, interpret it differently. Like they say, like, you know, when you look at a fire, you say this flame could either burn down your house or cook your dinner at night. It's all about perception. Like, how do you view what this fire should be for, right? And so I think it's just really important for people to understand that, like, what your family is doesn't determine what you're going to be.
Exactly.
But, like, when your child grows up, you know, kids do what we do, not what we say.
Yeah.
So if your child sees you every day coming in here and you are, you know, facilitating a business, orchestrating a business where you're sending products all across the country, then he's going to learn like, oh, my dad is a businessman.
Right.
That's going to be something that is aspiring to him. And even if he doesn't decide to do the same thing, he will likely be instilled with the practices that he saw my dad,
or at least
got
the
up,
discipline that it takes to
like,
be.
get up every morning. You
Right.
know, you go to the gym, you know, eat a certain way. All of those things, right, are things that are way more important than just like being there every single
It
night.
gives you a
right?
few tools in your tool belt to be successful in life. And at the end of the day, no matter how great of a dad you are, that kid's going to grow up and have to make their own decisions. The best thing, in my opinion, you can do is equip them with the tools to help them make the right decision.
Right.
But ultimately, they're going to be the ones that got to make the decision. You can't do it for them.
Yeah, that's the hardest part about seeing people grow up. Experience like raising my nieces and being there is them growing up and me telling you this and telling you this and telling you, and you go out in the world, you got to make your own decisions because I can't live for you.
Right.
And watching them make that decision, just like, oh my God, because it's not my life. I can only tell you. So you might learn a lesson like, hey, I remember when you told me this. I should have did it this way, but some things you have to learn on your own.
Most things you got to learn.
Like you just got to learn on your own, and maybe you make the right decision there, maybe you don't, but you'll learn. You know what I'm saying? What it is. That's the hardest part about like having people you love.
Yeah, when I was young, you know, I never understood why my mom hated me like riding my bike to like different neighborhoods so much. To me, it felt like that was something so small, right? And so of course I would still do it.
Right.
And occasionally I would get caught, like a friend, my mom's friend, see us somewhere. But then when I got older, and like, you know, cops killing people all the time, and, you know, specifically like, you know, white cops killing black kids, then one day I asked my mom randomly, like, how was that? Like, when we were growing up, was that a thing? Like,
Right.
And, you know, I have an older brother too. So my mom said, absolutely. And she said, I used to be terrified when y'all would leave the house.
Yeah.
She was like, why do you think I used to tell you I didn't want you riding your bike across the train tracks? And I said, oh, that's why.
You just think he's just being
Like,
mean, right?
I'm thinking you just don't want me to have fun.
Yeah.
You were literally terrified that
Right.
I might not come home.
Imagine that though, like,
And that, like that, I like started tearing up when we had that conversation, because the whole time, like, I'm
You trying to
thinking
make
my
sure I'm
mom
safe.
legit, like, just doesn't
Being
want me
strict.
to go and hang out
Right.
with my friends. Whole time she really sitting at home
Word.
thinking like, my son might come home. And
wait till you have a
bag.
kid, bro.
Right.
Like, I'm looking at my son. I can't imagine him walking out the door, riding his bike away somewhere, or like driving a car somewhere, or going on a trip somewhere. Like, that's your person. Like, I can't imagine it. Like, I'm gonna have to adjust. Obviously, you got to let him like grow up, but it's like I could totally understand that.
Yeah. With a son, I feel like it will probably, and I'm assuming this, be like easier than a daughter.
I don't know, because boys are the ones that's going to get
Like,
into
get
the
in the most
shit.
trouble.
Like, they're going to be the
Yeah.
ones causing the problem
For sure.
But I
Yeah.
feel like I would, if I had a daughter, I feel like I would just go crazy. Like,
Oh, until the end of time, though.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna be
until the end of
way
time.
strict on her for
Yeah.
sure.
Right.
But like this, the boy is going to be the one that's going to be like, one, if he gets in trouble, they're going to hold him accountable way harder than if it's a girl. Like, I know all of
Right.
the shit that could happen.
Getting lumped into the wrong crowd, influenced by the
Anything
wrong
can happen.
things.
Yeah.
Like, a lot
and
of that
if you do
stuff,
end
like,
up getting in
it's-
trouble for something, like, they're gonna hold your feet to the fire way worse than if
Right.
it's a girl. Especially when you're young, like, they let the little girls off most of the time. Like, if you're a boy, they're like, all right, well, you're a man.
I think more like what I think about is like, because as a parent, you can have a different relationship than what's going to influence your child. Yes, you will be his hero in certain aspects, but he's still gonna have that influence that's coming from like his generation, right?
Yeah.
Who is that influence going to be?
You never know.
Because we grew up with kids who lived in great neighborhoods, who had great circumstances, but was influenced by certain music and certain things that made
It
them
was
act
the
differently.
most gangster in high school.
Like you
out of
come
everybody.
from a great home, great neighborhood. You got school, you got everything, but you want to live this lifestyle, and it's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You never know. That's
Right.
the point I was making. Like, they got to make their own decision.
Right. And sometimes they are horrible decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my closest friends from college, he's from New York. He's from Staten Island. And in college, you know, we just getting into all types of
Right.
trouble, right? And he would get in fights a lot. Like, it was like he liked to fight, right? But my homeboy Doobie, he light skinned. He got like green eyes. So like, I feel like people didn't think he would be like tough.
Right.
But he took me to the first time I ever went to New York. He took me to New York, and I'm thinking like he lived in like the slums
Right.
because of how wild he is, right? But we get to his house, man. This dude lived in a 3-story house in Staten Island and had a pool in the backyard. His mom had a Lincoln Navigator.
Uncle used to box, so he got to.
I just like to fight.
His dad had like what was that joint? Like the Lexus, like SC, like the little joint, the little coupe, but it's like a hard top, drop top. Had like 20s on it, right? Yo, I get to this man's house. I looked at him and was like, yo, why are you like this? but come to find out, his pops was a boxer.
Yeah.
His pops
Look,
boxed,
he can
and,
just
like,
fight.
know something.
Right, yeah.
like, and so he was like, yeah, like his dad taught them like how to knock people out. Like, I've literally
If you're
seen
good at something, you
Yeah,
can
you
do it a
gonna
little more often.
Sometimes I want to fight.
I don't think, and when I say this, like, you only understand, like, I grew up in an area where people are always fighting and always stealing on people, but I've never seen anybody consistently knock out people.
Now,
as
if you
much
know
as
what
this
you're
dude.
doing,
Like,
it's
yeah,
way
yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Like, say, particularly with like grappling, like if somebody knows jujitsu and they get in a fight with somebody that doesn't know jujitsu,
You're done.
You're gonna get choked out.
Yeah.
You're gonna get
Oh,
choked
absolutely.
unconscious 100% of the time.
See,
It
yo,
doesn't
done.
matter if you're bigger, stronger.
At
It
all.
doesn't matter. If I know it and you don't know it, you're gonna lose.
For sure.
the difference between the soccer dad and the boxer dad, he said your hands is going to feed this family. So you gonna go to school, but make sure you still training. And
No matter what,
'Cause
you're not gonna take no L's.
You gonna feed this family with them hands.
Oh, that's too funny.
Man. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate you coming in. I know your birthday's in a few hours. I'm excited to celebrate with you tomorrow. And
Is
for
it
the next few.
Is it an age limit? Where we going?
It's a 45 and up.
All walkers welcome.
I'll catch it on Facebook Live.
Yeah, on Facebook Live. Yeah, man. You know, it's like coming home party, retirement party.
Yeah,
you know.
man.
Yeah. After this, I'm going in the house.
Nothing wrong with that. I need to go in the house myself.
I saw
Like
Do you buy stuff off
September.
TV? Like, do you go shopping when you TV?
no.
Let me give him 4 easy payments or what?
QVC. While you playing, get that make it happen
I
bundle.
thought I
on.
smelled big gay earlier. I didn't know what
Hold on, 50, I can get double for the price of one. Hold on. Let me get my card out now.
checkbook.
Hey,
That's a nice lawnmower.
I got 2 of them now. You need one?
Y'all hilarious, man. Yeah, man.
I hope I make it. So I'm happy that you're 40. I'm happy that you're still looking good. You know, you're holding it together. Successful young man. And happy to be a friend of yours, man. Thank you for everything.
Sir.
And
Happy
yeah, we'll wrap
return.
this up. Make sure you guys hit the like, comment, subscribe button. And we'll see you next week.